Okay, I don't think this is working because her hair is still very much wet. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, I'm Stella, and I love making miniatures for my Barbie's dollhouse using mainly cardstock. In today's video, I'll show you how to make these little blow dryer and curling iron for your dolls, and as always, I have a free printable template to help you make your own version. You'll find all the infos and the download link in the video, so now let's get started. To make a blow dryer, cut this part of the template 3 times. I recommend using cardstock from all the packagings for this. Then stack the layers together to create a final piece that's around 2 millimeters thick. Repeat the same process for this part, cutting it 3 times and attaching the layers together. At this point, you should have these 2 pieces. Set them aside for a second, then cut this part into lightweight cardstock and roll it around a pen or a pencil to give it this rounded shape. Now we'll need to attach these 2 elements together this way. Next, attach the second circle, and you should end up with this. Now cut these 3 parts, and once again cut 3 layers for each part and stack them to create 3 pieces that are approximately 2 millimeters thick. Then cut this part into lightweight cardstock, roll it against the pan to give it a rounded shape, and finally attach it to the 3 little cardstock circles. Repeat the same steps for these parts of the template. At this point, you should have these 3 separate elements. Attach them to one another to create the top part of our miniature blow dryer. Next, cut this part into lightweight cardstock and give it a rounded shape by rolling it against a pen. Attach it to the piece we made earlier, then repeat the same process for these parts of the template. To make the handle of our miniature hairdryer, cut this part into thick cardstock and glue the 2 sides together. Then cut this part and glue the 2 layers on top of the previous ones, like this. Repeat this step for this part, and the final piece should be around 4 millimeters in thickness. Now cut this part into copy paper and glue it all around the sides of the handle. Use a nail buffer to sand the surface, then cut this part into lightweight cardstock and glue it to the handle on both sides. You should end up with this. Assemble your miniature blow dryer this way. And now we can begin to add some details. Start by painting the whole piece with a coat of acrylic gesso. This will make the surface look a little more even. Then paint the body of the hairdryer with a color of your choice. And optionally, you can cut these strips into copy paper and glue them in place for an extra detail. Finally, cut these little buttons and glue them to the handle and top of your miniature blow dryer. And if you want, you can use a pen to add a few more little details. And just a reminder, if you have a Cricut or a Silhouette cutting machine, you can opt to use my digital templates, which you can find in my shop, linked in the description box. To make a cord for our little hairdryer, you can use a piece of sew-in thread or even a piece of actual electrical wire. And I got mine from old appliances that I was throwing away, so yay for recycling. Cut this little strip into copy paper and glue it to one end of the cord, rolling it over itself and moving the strip upwards at every turn to give it this slightly conical shape. Paint the paper black, then glue it to the blow dryer's handle. At this point, we can use clear nail polish or a clear gloss varnish to give our blow dryer a shiny finish. To make a plug, cut this part of the template and stack all the layers together. Then cut this part and once again glue together all the elements, and if you're using my free printable template, I recommend piercing these little holes with a needle. Attach these 2 parts to one another. Then cut this strip into copy paper and glue it around the end of the blow dryer's cord. Attach the plug to the cord and paint the final piece with black acrylic. Now take a pin or a piece of metal wire and cut it into 2 small sections. Glue these little bars into the holes in the plug, like this. To make a concentrator nozzle, cut this part 3 times and glue the layers together. Then cut this strip, roll it against the pen to give it a rounded shape, and glue it inside the little ring we just prepared. Finally, cut this part, roll it against the pen, and glue it to the outer part of the ring. Then lightly pinch the cardstock between your fingers to slightly flatten it. Color the final piece with black paint and give it a shiny finish with a gloss varnish. To make a curling iron, take a skewer or a big toothpick and cut it to a length of 5 centimeters. Paint half of it with black nail polish or black paint and clear varnish. Then cut this part into copy paper, give it a rounded shape by rolling it against a small paintbrush, and finally glue it to the toothpick to create a handle. Next, cut this part into lightweight cardstock and glue it over the handle. this way. If you want, you can cut a small rectangle out of kitchen foil or metallic gift wrap and attach it right under this piece to add a small extra detail. Finally, cut these little buttons and glue them on top of the handle. Now cut this strip into copy paper and roll it around the top end of the iron's wand. Paint this strip and the handle with a color of your choice, then add a shiny finish with clear nail polish. While the paint is drying, cut this part into lightweight cardstock and press it against a toothpick to give it a bit of a rounded shape. Then bend this part so that it's a little raised. Color this piece with black nail polish, then cut this part and paint it the same color as the handle. Glue this element on top of the previous one, and attach the resulting piece on top of the curling iron. Make a power cable and plug the same way as we did earlier, then glue it to the base of the iron. If you want, you can draw a couple of small dots on the buttons for an extra little detail. And our miniature hairdryer and curling iron are ready. As promised, here's the link to the free printable template. And if you're interested in the SVG and Silhouette Studio files, there's a link to my shop in the description box. If you want to find out how to make a miniature washing machine for your dolls using cardstock, I suggest watching this video next. And this is all for today's video. Until next time, bye!